Yeah, we have talked about for the last couple of weeks a big event, obviously coming up this month on the 18th is going to be the next FOMC meeting, where it seems like a virtual lock that Jerome Powell, the Fed, will be cutting interest rates. Something that's been pulled for months and months, of course. And we have both said that we think we'll see a pump from Ethereum, continued leading into that. So we'll just get into where BTC and ETH are right now. I actually didn't even have it pulled up on my end, but Bitcoin, like you just said, I mean, there hasn't really been crazy movements in the last few days, but we do have Bitcoin rebounding a bit here, up to 112K. Ethereum is at 4465 right now. It flirted with 4500 today. Trying to get back to that elusive $5,000 when Ethereum hit a new all-time high for about a 2-hour period a couple Sundays ago.
Yeah.
So we are hoping for that. But yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about our typical. This has been such a unique, interesting, horrible cycle, really, for anybody outside of Bitcoin. But an interesting one for us to really break down, just because we still have not seen Ethereum really take off at all. We haven't seen a true alt season in the late stage of a bull market yet. And it continues to beg the question, what kind of time frame could we be looking at here? Is this something that's going to just completely hockey stick up in 3 months? Like, are we done in 2 or 3 months? Or are we going to extend into 2026? Which, we had somebody bring up last week about will it happen this year, or will it be a super cycle into 2026? That would definitely not be the definition of a super cycle. I mean, a lot of these definitions, I think, are kind of, malleable based on what you're really trying to say. But we've said it on here many times. Ethereum in the bull market of 2017, it did not hit its cycle high until January of the following year in 2018. That would be the equivalent of this coming January 2026 if Ethereum hit an all-time high. So keep that in mind as well, that even if we did continue this bull market, even with Bitcoin and Ethereum and alts, into, I would even say, nearly early spring of next year, that would still be really falling into the same scope of the 4-year cycle. It's not like any kind of crazy deviation, even if it's just a 90-day period. So, yeah,
Sure.
Ewok, what do you think? I mean, I know you were for a while, and as we get later and later into the year, maybe your opinion changed, but for a while you've been saying no, I think it'll all be done within this calendar year. Are you still thinking that for Bitcoin and or Ethereum? And how do you see this playing out right now?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I still think early 2026 for altcoins. It does really all revolve around Bitcoin. And the one thing I kind of did want to look at and point out is that a lot of cycles, even in the past, when you go back to 2017, obviously that was the Christmas top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Into December, Christmas, pretty much. It was Christmas or a couple of days before. And then you got into the last cycle into 2021, and the first actual top was April. So I don't have the chart to go back further to see where it was on the first cycle, unfortunately. But I think it was right in around here as well, in December-ish of 2014, maybe not. I don't remember what month it was. So going off of that, it's really hard to say. These things don't typically happen in the same month. We'd like to, and then even the second top back in 2021 was in November, right? So again, not the same month. So first top April, second top by a little bit more was even spread out to November. So there, I guess there's a possibility of something like that even happening, right? You get some sort of top, and then it kind of cools off, and you get a little bit higher of a top. That something like that could totally affect, the top for Ethereum. So again, when that happened, let's go back to that and see 2021, where the first top was April here, and then it kind of did the same thing into November, which extended it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even though when you look at the Pi cycle top, it said that it was right here in April 16th or something like that was the actual top. And then when it hit September, it didn't reflect that, or November, I'm sorry. It didn't reflect that on the Pi cycle top indicator. So even though things ran a little bit higher, it wasn't indicated here. So I think something like that could happen with Bitcoin. Not enough people believing that was the top, and all the influencers saying, "Oh no, we're not done yet. We're not done yet," and it does get a little bit higher. I guess that could extend it. So what? It went from April to November. If we're thinking that the first top comes in and then it cools off and it does do another something into April, I don't know what that would translate to as far as altcoins going. Now, it could be beneficial, but I think people are just so ready for something at this point that it's really just, it's hard to say. It's how quickly this takes off. And to answer your question, does it just hockey stick up? Well, it could, and it's done it before. So there is that as a possibility as well. It's just runs like this from 2000 all the way up to 4000 happen within 4 weeks. 3-4 weeks, it can happen like that. So you get a doubling in price with a very, very short period of time. You have this candle here that was only 2 or 3 candles, and it went from 1700 to 2700. There's 1,000 in 2 days. So anything's possible. It really is. And it's just so hard to call right now because you don't know what the sentiment is as far as the bigger players that are dipping in and out and kind of manipulating the markets currently. It's more of a watch what they do type of thing before you really decide. But when we look at Bitcoin, we still are in this just choppy. It's staying right between the 50 and the 200 currently. The 50 is kind of turning down. So I'm hoping that it doesn't hit that and bounce because of the resistance there. As far as the moving averages go, what we need it to do is bust through it to pull this average up a little bit. I think it helps. We're still way above the trend line. I don't see it coming back down to touch it anytime soon. You're talking already into January. It would have to pull back to 97,000 or something like that. I just don't see that happening. I see it pulling away more so from the trend line, and Ethereum getting hot too and pulling away from this trend line as well. So I still think we're on target. I don't see why by October, November we can't be in the 6,000 range, if not even a little bit higher, 7 or 8,000. And then that last month, I think December is going to be really, really heated. Now, will that be the end? Who knows? Ethereum always trails Bitcoin by about 28 or 29 days from when that top is until it plays out and people transfer into Ethereum, catch that final rip, and then things from there go into altcoins, catch those rips, and then it just kind of tapers off. But again, that double top that happened last cycle for Bitcoin really threw things off a little bit. And, it wasn't much, but it was enough to make another all-time high. So something to consider that could take it into, a little further into the following year. But again, my target is still probably to be over and done with by March or April, I think.
Yeah, which would be magnificent. I mean, like I think you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but I think the further that we run, the better it's going to be no matter what. I mean, maybe that just is obvious. But yeah, I think the further that this bull market goes, the better that we're all going to be off.